So, good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing fine. And today we are going to discuss about Sophocles' major plays. And that's gonna be a wild ride because we are going to cover all of his major plays. So, come on, join me this live session, and I will start immediately. So, today we are actually diving into the world of Sophocles and his awesome plays. So Sophocles, as we know, was an ancient Greek tragedian, as we know, and he's one of the lucky three whose plays have survived in their entirety, right? And he wrote over 120 plays, but we are focusing here on seven of his major plays. In fact, all these seven plays are only survived. So in this seven plays, we are going to cover Antigone, Oedipus Rex, Electra, and Oedipus at Colonus. So, come on, join everyone. So, like you now picture this. No, Sophocles was rocking the theater scene, especially in Athens, for nearly half a century. So, can you imagine the fame and recognition he must have enjoyed? His plays were performed during religious festival, as we have discussed in our previous class. These festivals were like Dionysia, Lenia, so where the city-state of Athens held what dramatic competition. So, all right, let's kick things off with Oedipus Rex. Okay, but before that, we should actually talk about who is Sophocles, right? So let's a little bit talk about Oedipus Rex. As we know, he has written 120 plays, only seven which are survived, like Ajax, Antigone, Women of Trachis, Oedipus Rex, Electra, Philoctetes, and Oedipus at Colonus. Right. So he was kind of the big shot of Greek theater back in the day. So this dude was kind of legend, winning the top prizes at Athenian festival and a whopping 18 times. Can you believe it? And get this, he wasn't some torture artist hiding in the shadow. He was actually one of the most popular and respected guys around that. And Sophocles wasn't just a playwright though, he was a real go-getter in Athenian society. So he dabbled in politics, served as a city treasurer, and even worked as a naval officer. So plus he was tied with Pericles, the top dog of the time. So talk about connections. But here's the cool part: Sophocles was a writing machine. So he has written over 120 plays. If you can just number it, it will be like 123 plays in his lifetime. And unfortunately, only seven of them survived for us to enjoy today. Am I right? But anyway, as Sophocles grew older, Athens hit a rough patch. They got tangled in a war with other jealous city-states, and that marked the beginning of the end of Athens' golden era. So it was tough time for Greek theater too, and eventually it faded away into oblivion. But guess what? Sophocles' work didn't fade with it. His plays have stood the test of time and are still considered some of the greatest works in literature. Pretty impressive, right? So now comes to the introduction, and we'll just talk about all of his plays a little bit, and then we'll move to the context. So anyway, we'll start with Oedipus Rex, which was like a real mind bender. If you have just read about this work, or at least you know the summary, it's just quite fascinating. I think everyone should read the play, and we have so many translation about this work. And then again, first we'll just start with Oedipus Rex, and then we'll move on to Antigone and Oedipus at Colonus, and at the end we'll wrap it with Electra, which was also kind of absolute gem. So get comfy and get ready to explore the fascinating world of Sophocles plays. So as I told you, it's gonna be a wild ride, baby. But anyway, so let me tell you about some ancient Greek play called Oedipus Rex. So also known as, you might have heard about Oedipus the King. If not the Rex, then Oedipus the King. So it was written by Sophocles way back in the day, around like 430 to somewhere around 426 BCE. So this play is considered a masterpiece of classical Greek drama because it's incredibly well written and keeps you on the edge of your seat. And trust me, that's gonna happen to you too. When we complete the session, you're gonna love it. So this Oedipus Rex, the story revolves around a guy named Oedipus, so who happens to be the king of Thebes. The poor city is like going through a terrible plague, and Oedipus wants to put an end to it. So he goes to the Delphic oracle for some advice, and the oracle tells him that the plague will only stop if they find and punish the person who murdered King Laius, who was actually the first husband of Jocasta. So now here's the thing. The things really get twisted, and as Oedipus starts digging into the murder mystery, he starts realizing that he might be the culprit himself. So again, it turns out when he was a young man and on his way back to Thebes, he got into a fight and ended up killing an old man. And guess who that old man was? Yes, you got it right. It was none other than King Laius himself, who was Jocasta's first hubby. Remember that. So the play reaches a tragic climax when Jocasta, feeling immense shame and guilt, what she did, she eventually hangs herself. So Oedipus, burdened with guilt and grief, he decided to punish himself, and he blinds himself as a way to atone for his actions. It's quite a heavy and intense play, right? We're gonna discuss this in detail in all like there is plot overview and all these things. Anyway, so one more thing. Did you know that out of 3 surviving Theban plays, Sophocles, about the one Oedipus called, which is the Oedipus Rex, was actually the second one he wrote, and it came only after Antigone. But here we are going to discuss Oedipus first and then Antigone. Then it will be like in a particular order. So anyway, Antigone was actually written way before, like 12 years before the Oedipus Rex. But here's the twist. In terms of a story timeline, Oedipus actually comes first, then comes Oedipus at Colonus, and finally comes Antigone. So even though it was a written letter, it's the first chapter of the whole Oedipus saga. Pretty interesting, huh? So we'll just move on. So first we'll just move to the context. So in the context way, we are just going to list out his important plays, which is like Ajax, Antigone, Women of Trachis, Oedipus Rex, Electra, Philoctetes, and Oedipus at Columbus. So this is the particular order that he has written, but we are going to start with Oedipus Rex, and then we'll move on to Oedipus at Colonus, and at the end we'll talk about Antigone, and at the end we'll talk about Electra as well. Okay. So this is all about. So let me tell you a little bit more about this this context. And so, as you know, these plays are by Sophocles, right? And yeah, there are three important saga in Oedipus, which starts with Oedipus the Rex and Oedipus at Colonus and Antigone. So on one hand, we all want freedom and power, right? But on the other hand, we are well aware that the fate or the gods have their own plans for us. So everything, all the chaos and mess started with that fate. So it was actually quite important that fate played an important role in all Greek theatre, not only Sophocles but also Euripides and Aeschylus. All their plays has this kind of character fate, which plays an important role in twist the drama or just forming the plot. So all about this. So all right, now listen up. I have got a crazy story to tell you, filled with twists and turns you won't believe. So something about the background story is like, so there is this guy named Laius, right? You must have actually it's a main character in Oedipus the Rex. Not actually main, but very important character. And in later play, like in Antigone and Oedipus at Colonus, he also showed up, and also in many of Aeschylus and Euripides plays. So he was the guy who messed up big time by disrespecting the laws of hospitality. And you know what they say? No, they say about the karma. Well, it hit him hard. The whole city of Thebes suffered because of the curse that was put on him. But that's not even the wildest part. When Laius had a baby boy, he decided to check his future with an oracle. And as we know, who is the oracle? Tiresias, right? And guess what? The oracle dropped a bombshell, and it said that Laius would be killed by his own son. So, we'll just move on with again now Laius. So Laius, who was the king, right, in the beginning. So Laius freaked out big time with the oracle's, you know, future, and came up with a master plan. So he ordered his wife Jocasta to kill their newborn son. So can you believe it? But as Jocasta's mother, right, Jocasta couldn't go through it, so she asked a servant to get rid of the baby instead. So uh, that servant, who will play important role later in the play. So the servant left the poor kid on a mountain top, but luckily there was one shepherd around, and a shepherd found him and decided to raise him as his own son. They named the kid Oedipus because his feet were all messed up with being bound. So fast forward again to Oedipus growing up, he starts hearing rumors that his parents aren't really his parents, right? So naturally he's curious as his act. So he goes to the oracle of Delphi to find out about the truth, but instead of a straightforward answer, the oracle drops a bombshell again. So again, I tell you, these oracle are quite important to form the story. And it tells Oedipus that he's destined to do some messed up stuff, like marrying his own mom and killing his dad. Can you imagine this horror? What kind of effect it might have, left in his character. So now he's very desperate. So Oedipus, what he did is that in the desperation to avoid this kind of twisted fate, he leaves his supposed parents and heads to Thebes, where he encounters an old man on the road. So they get into a fight about who has the right way up, and things escalate quickly. So Oedipus ends up showing the old man off his chariot, knowingly killing him. So little did he know that this old man was his real dad, real father. So Laius himself talk about fulfilling prophecy, right? So that the first prophecy already happened. So but wait, there's more. So when Oedipus finally reaches Thebes, he faces off against a crazy creature called the Sphinx. So that Sphinx, this thing has the head of a woman and the body of lioness and the wings of an eagle. So it's been terrorizing the city for so long, eating people and left everywhere. So but there's a catch. So if you can't solve this Sphinx riddle, you become its food or snack. So now the riddle goes something like that. That the Sphinx asks, what walks on 4 legs in the morning, okay, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? So I hope you can answer. Can you answer? Can you solve this riddle? Guys, write in the chat box quickly if you can write. But anyway, it's quite confusing, right? So well, Oedipus, being a smarty pants, as we know, he actually answers, and the answer is surprisingly a man. So it was a man who walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening. Well, Oedipus, being a smart, he answered that. And so again, that was the context of overall Oedipus Rex. But now it's time for us to talk about the characters, which are quite important. So this is the list that you see here is all from all the plays of Sophocles. So remember that most of the Greek plays, Greek theater and the plays, all the characters are kind of appears in every play. There is Jocasta, Antigone, Creon, Polyneices, Tiresias, Oedipus. So this Tiresias guy you can see everywhere. Oedipus, of course, is there in all of Sophocles' play. And there is a character Haemon, Theseus, Chorus. So we'll just talk about one by one. We'll begin with Oedipus because that will be our first play to discuss, right? So Oedipus is the main character in Oedipus the Rex. He's the actually protagonist, or it's kind of you can't say complete his protagonist, but he's also a victim, and he's also a kind of villain, if you can say. So anyway, Oedipus is like, he's the complete, star of our show. So remember that up. So this guy, eventually what he becomes king of Thebes by what, solving a tricky riddle and killing an old man, right? So but here's the catch, he's completely clueless about his own messed up situation. So it turns out he accidentally offered his own dad without realizing it, and then went ahead and married his own mom, and who's Jocasta, right? And speaking of Jocasta, sees Oedipus' wife, and you can also say mom, pops up toward the end, trying to smooth things over between Oedipus and his brother-in-law, who's Creon, right? And Jocasta's got some smart herself and figuring out the whole twisted family tree before Oedipus does, and she'll all about protecting her loved ones from the harsh truth, and she eventually kills herself, right? And speaking of Creon, Antigone we'll just discuss, because this character only comes in Antigone play, and also in again Colonus. So anyway, here Creon is actually Oedipus' brother-in-law, who's kind of recurring character throughout the plays. And at first he claims he doesn't want to be king, but boy, does that change. He's power, hungry, and even ready to fight his own nephew for the throne, in especially in Antigone. And that Creon is also in Oedipus and Antigone, and of course in Oedipus at Colonus. So he's kind of everywhere. So in Antigone, what happens, that Creon's ruling Thebes with the same kind of a stubbornness and blindness as Oedipus did. So he's not exactly the most sympathetic character, but like with his bossy and bureaucratical ways of dealing with others. So that was about Creon. And now we'll just talk about Tiresias, who is actually, you will find in Oedipus Rex, Antigone, and almost overall everywhere. So this dude is actually blind, but he can see everything, right? So he's key figure in both Oedipus the king and Antigone, and he drops some serious truth, but often faces disbelief. He tells, but nobody believes in, and of course if they believe, they try to avoid the truth, and eventually what happens, he's all the oracle or whatever the prophecies that he made eventually come true. So the guy might be blind, right? But he sure sees more than those who ignore the harsh reality. And other characters that we are gonna talk here is Antigone. So Antigone is like Oedipus and Jocasta's daughter, or you can just say also Oedipus' sister in some way, right? It's very complicated. So she shows up briefly in the play, in the first play, Oedipus the Rex, but her character is she's protagonist in Antigone itself. So and also she really shines in the play, which is actually the title. And Antigone is kind of total boss, fearlessly standing up for what she believes is right, even if it means going against the powerful king who Creon, right? And she has got more guts and clarity than anyone else in the whole Theban saga. So we talked about Oedipus, Jocasta, Antigone, Creon, Tiresias. Now we are left with Polyneices. So this guy is actually son of Oedipus and sister of Antigone, or you can say the brother of Oedipus. That can be. So anyway, so this guy Polyneices is also is a part of twisted family, right? He shows up briefly in the second play, trying to get his dad's blessing for a battle against his own brother Eteocles. So Polyneices is all about pointing out the similarity between his own situation and Oedipus, but some see as an opportunist. So this guy was, remember, he didn't appear in Oedipus, like his character was not important in Oedipus the Rex, but later in Antigone and of course in Colonus, Oedipus and Colonus, his character is there. So this is all about Polyneices. Now we'll just move on to Haman. Why Haman is important? Because Haman is Creon's son. That Creon's son is Haman, and he's actually head over heel with Antigone. He loved Antigone so much, so he's not afraid of to challenge his dad's decision to punish her, all in the name of love. Right. So Oedipus' daughter makes some appearance too, but she's more of supporting character. So there is one character, Ismene. So anyway, so this is all about Haman, who actually plays important role in Antigone. There is that we'll discuss in the, you will understand by the plot. But anyway, you have to pay attention for now. Oedipus, Jocasta, of course, Creon and Tiresias. So these are kind of common characters, right? So again, there is one character, Theseus, who actually appeared in Oedipus at Colonus. That we'll discuss at the end. So he's like a tough warrior with a soft spot for Oedipus. So Theseus defends him against Creon and promises to keep the secret of Oedipus' journey to the underworld, where he was just banished into the desert, right? So anyway, again we have Chorus. Chorus is an important character in every play. Every tragedies, every Greek plays, chorus you will find. So so these guys are like some comic relief. They give some comic relief, often being clueless or changing their minds in the blink of an eye. So, but sometime what happens, they offer valuable insights, guiding the audience on how to interpret what's happening on this stage. So, whatever like background sound you see, you hear in, even when you read, these chorus are actually building up the plot, or kind of sound effect, if you can say at that time. So anyway, that chorus. And again we have Eurydice. She's not important character at all, but she's actually wife of Creon. And at the end we have Electra, that we are going to discuss in the play Electra. But for now, I'll just tell you a little bit about her, Electra. So Electra was kind of popular character in tragedy play. So like Oedipus, in Sophocles, Oedipus plays a major he's very he's major character in Sophocles play. Similarly, Electra, so this Electra is in every kind of, not only in Sophocles, but also she appears in Euripides, which is also another play, Electra, same name. So but that's not all, she's also the main character in the plays Aeschylus, and Alipheri, Voltaire, and Hofmannsthal, and Eugene O'Neill. So talk about being in demand. So this character actually also appeared in many later plays. So that's why we have put that Electra thing, right? And of course, when we mention about Electra, there is Electra complex in psychology, right? So this is, it's a concept that talks about daughter's attraction toward his dad, right? I mean, toward her father. So so this is all about Electra, and we'll just talk about, now we will talk about the here Oedipus the Rex, the first one. So I'll tell you the plot of it, and anyway, I have already discussed the context, where you have got the idea what kind of this play was about. So anyway, I'll just start with the plot overview of this, then we'll move on to Antigone, then Oedipus at Colonus, and at the end Electra. So Oedipus Rex. So are you ready, guys? So let me break down this story. So in the beginning, Oedipus, we see that he's a king there, so in Thebes especially. So this Oedipus is dealing with this terrible plague. So the play start with like that. There is a plague in the city, in Thebes, and he wanted to solve this. So what he does, he asks his brother-in-law to Creon that go and check out with Oracle if we can find any solution. So like Oedipus ordering like, yo Creon, my brother-in-law, go hit up that Oracle in Delphi and find out what is happening and how can we solve this problem, right? So that kind of order that he got from Oedipus. So Creon goes and again comes back with some news, and he says that the whole plague situation is only because the murder of the previous king lies, which hasn't been solved yet, and the murderer haven't been caught yet. So well, The Oedipus is like very strong character, right? As we have discussed. So Oedipus gets all riled up and promises to find the murderer, and everything starts from there. Everything, all the mess up, chaos, it starts with his character of curiosity, that he wanted to solve the problem. And he actually even curse, in the stage that even curses like whoever killed it. And in fact, he's actually abusing or cursing himself. So what happens now? So to find some answers, he calls up this blind prophet named Tiresias. So Tiresias, he actually in the beginning he was not ready to tell. He was quite reluctant. So he refuses to spill the beans and tells Oedipus to just give up on the truth. You don't have to search, but as we know his character, what kind of man Oedipus is, he doesn't give up so easily, right? So uh, and he, what happens, like this thing, no, he started accusing Tiresias of being involved in murder. So Tiresias doesn't take it like lying down and fires back, saying that Oedipus himself is the murderer. What happened? Wait, did he tell? Oedipus himself is the murderer. Wow. So anyway, Oedipus is like, what? How can that be? He thinks that maybe Creon bribed Tiresias to accuse him. So they argue like crazy, with Oedipus making fun of Tiresias for being blind. And Tiresias again hitting back, saying that Oedipus is blind to the truth. So in the end, Tiresias, storms off, goes back, mumbling some cryptic stuff about the murderer being a Theban, who's both brother and father to his own kids and son, and husband to his own mom. Yeah, messed up. So many chaos is happening right now. Right? And everything starts from that. Then Creon shows up again, and Oedipus starts throwing accusation at him, demanding his execution, because you are the one who's creating this thing, and you're just being accused for treason. Treason. So the chorus convinces Oedipus again. Now the chorus has showed up here, right? So Oedipus, to spare Creon's life, Jocasta, who's Oedipus' wife, comes in and tries to calm him down, telling him not to trust prophets because they can be unreliable sometimes. She even tells a story about an oracle that didn't come true, about Laius being killed by his own son. So instead, Laius got killed by some robbers at a fork in the road near Delos on the way to Delphi. So that's Jocasta made this statement there. So this statement actually rings the bell, where rings the bell in his mind, that Oedipus' mind, that he's like, hold up, tell me more about Laius. So what he did, he sends for a shepherd who witnessed the attack. See, the only surviving witness to be brought to the palace from his field, right? And that shepherd came, and folk, you will not believe it. What is going to happen now? So here's the scoop. Jocasta is all confused and asks Oedipus what's bugging him. And guess what? He spills the bean. Way back in the day, at some fancy, place in Corinth. Remember the place, Corinth place, that Corinth. This, like, some drunk dude had the audacity to claim that Oedipus wasn't his old man's real son. So, well, that got under Oedipus' skin really quick. So he decided to visit the Oracle of Delphi to get to get lowdown on his parentage. And he sent some, messenger to find out about it. So instead of just answering his question like normal oracle, again, Delphi dude drops a bombshell prophecy on Oedipus. And guess what? What was the prophecy? So this oracle tells him that he's gonna off his father and cozy up with his own mother, right? Kind of. So what he said, in like that, you'll kill your father and marry your mother, right? So of course, hearing this, he freaked out. Oedipus decided to stay clear, of Corinth, never to return. So that is actually the background story that is happening right here. So, well, on his journey, he ends up at the crossroads, and in that crossroad, where this dude named or his father, you can say, but he doesn't know at that point, right? So, Laius had been, he actually killed Laius there, and then wouldn't you know, Oedipus gets into a heated argument with some folk in carriage, and things escalate like real quick. And Oedipus end up killing those travelers, including a guy who sounds suspiciously like Jocasta's uh, husband, or you can say Oedipus' wife. Anyway, it's mashed up. You guys got the story anyway. So, but hold your seat now. Oedipus still holds on to a glimmer of hope that he ain't the one who did Elias. So, well, he thought that he killed one of the robbers, right? So Oedipus figures if he can confirm that from the Shepherd, he'll be off the hook. So if that Shepherd confirms that actually he killed who? Robber, not the king, then everything will be solved. So he was very curious, Oedipus character. So what he does, he asked, a messenger to go from, to go to Corinth with news that Oedipus supposed that actually that messenger came to Corinth to tell Oedipus about his dad, that Polybus. Remember that Shepherd has given Oedipus to one king there in this place. For anyway, it was Corinth, right? So Polybus has actually died. That the news he received. Oedipus received, and guess what? Oedipus is thrilled about. Oh, finally, my father is died there. Now I have no problem that, So he was quite happy because now he can't accidentally kill and murder his old man, and proves that half of the oracle prophecies is a load of bullshit. So anyway, but wait, there is more. What happens? Oedipus is still sweating bullet over the possibility of sleeping with his own mother. So now he solved, according to him, that he solved one problem about that, Polybus died. So he's not going to, that prophecy didn't, come true. And but one more thing that he was quite, worry about, that he will marry his own mother. So what happened? So that messenger, no, of course, brought some good news, but again, Merope, the lady who raised Oedipus as her own, ain't his biological mama. What? Again, this messenger. So this messenger spills the beans on what really went down. So picture this, no? Years ago, while chilling on, Mount Kitharian, there was one mount there, and tending his flock, that Shepherd, right? The messenger encountered a Shepherd there, and he from Laius' crib. So this Shepherd hands the baby to him and tells him to ditch the kid, just throw it somewhere or kill him. Anyway, so what happened? That messenger passes the bundle of joy to Polybus. What happened? Who raises him like his own flesh and blood? He gave to the King Polybus there, who actually raises this Oedipus as his own flesh. And but the Oedipus doesn't know that Polybus is not actually his father. But now it's going to be a little bit, surprising here. So Oedipus is actually dying to find out who that other Shepherd is. See, the one who saw the whole thing. So that Shepherd, Oedipus already sent for, talk about a small world. But hold on. What actually happened? Before that, Jocasta actually realizes that brutal truth before Oedipus himself. So starts panicking like there's no tomorrow. She's desperately begging Oedipus to drop all these uncomfortable questions. He was like literally begging Oedipus to drop all these, curiosity, just drop it. But as we know, about Oedipus, that Oedipus is not going to do it. He's going to find out. So he's determined to dig up the dirt no matter what. So what does Jocasta do? She bolts into the palace like there's a fire under her feet, hangs in there, man. And the story about to take a wild turn. And I can't wait to spill the beans on what happens next. So I'm excited. Are you guys? So when that Shepherd, now the Shepherd has come to the stage and he's saying, Oedipus, like he starts bombarding him with questions. But guess what? The Shepherd wants to bail out. and dodge those questions. He's like, please let me go without spilling any more beans. But anyway, but our Oedipus is like, no, he starts threatening the poor guy with torture and execution, talk about intense. Then eventually what he did, he told everything. So, something like that. The child that Oedipus gave away was actually his very own son. Not Oedipus actually, the lies, right? So can you believe it? Jocasta, his wife, also his mom right now, that he realized was scared that the prophecy would come true, saying that her son would kill his own father. So she hands him over the shepherd, right? And abandoned in the mountainside. So what happens actually, that Oedipus is the kid was handed over to Polybus. So everything is now kind of open. Oedipus is filled with self-loathing, curses his luck. He storms off the stage, leaving the chorus to mourn, and the fact that even a great man can be brought down by destiny. Then a servant comes out from the palace and spills the beans again about what went down inside. So Jocasta, overcome with grief, has taken her own life in her bedroom. Oedipus, in a state of anguish, rushes into the palace and demands a sword. So he can what? He can end his own misery by, you know. But anyway, when he finds out, actually what happens, that Oedipus was very angry and was taken the sword and was going to her palace to kill her actually. But what happens, he finds herself lifeless body. He just crumbles. He takes this long gold pins from her dress and in utter despair blinds himself. So it's a heart-wrenching scene. I tell you, you should read it. It's really good. There are very good translation out there. So anyway, now the blinded king stumbles out of the palace and pleads to banish the king. Please banish me from this place. I want to suffer. I don't want to die or give me a easy death. I want to suffer. So you just throw me in desert, so I can just suffer. I can regret and these kind of things. Anyway, so Creon, who was actually the voice of reason, steps in and says that they should take Oedipus inside until they can consult some more oracle about what to do next. So Oedipus' two daughters now will come to the picture, right? Antigone and Ismene. So we'll talking about Antigone also. Are sent away. Oedipus expresses his sorrow that they were born into such a cursed family and begs Creon to look after them, hoping they'll have a better life than he did. So Creon agrees and sends Oedipus back, and he ordered to desert him in some distant place. So at the end, what happened? On an empty stage, the chorus reminds us of the Greek belief that no one should be considered lucky until they are dead. So quite a grim outlook, don't you think? So that's what about the. Now we'll just move on to another plot, which is Antigone. It is about Antigone now. So we'll move to the Antigone here, and this is where we left off, right? What happens at the end, you remember? Just we talked about that. He actually begs for to Creon to look after his children, and Creon promises, and the play starts here again. Antigone. Okay, so this is a story about Antigone and Ismene, who are actually the daughter of Oedipus, and they have one brother, like Polynices and Eteocles. So actually, what happens? They ended up killing each other while fighting for control of Thebes. So the play starts like that. So here's the plot here for you. So Creon, as we know, he is the brother-in-law of Oedipus, right? So Creon, who's now in charge of Thebes, right after the Oedipus, decide that Polynices shouldn't get a proper burial because he brought a foreign army against the city, and he even threatens to kill anyone who tries to bury the poor guy and post guards around his body. So Antigone, so Polynices, as we know, is the brother, right? But what happens, as he has was threat against Thebes, he cannot have a proper burial because of the treason, right? So Antigone was like a very bold and badass character. So she decides to defy Creon's, this thing all by herself. She's like, no way, I'm giving my brother a decent burial. Her sister Ismene, on the other hand, is a bit of, scared cat and doesn't want to get involved into it. Can't blame her actually, but that was like completely opposite character. So Antigone, what she sneaks out and tries to rebury her brother, but guesses who catches her? The nervous sentry who is Yep. There was one character, Yep, the nervous sentry who was supposed to be guarding the body. But Antigone doesn't even deny it when Creon confronts her. She straight up tells him that he's defying the gods by denying her brother a proper burial. And it was like, now you can see how bold she was, how bold Antigone was. So Creon, the king at that time, right, being the stubborn guy, as we know, doesn't take kindly to, Antigone's request. He's like, both you and Ismene are gonna die for this. Oof. And that, so talk about harsh punishment. But here's where it gets interesting. So there is one character also now will appear, Haman, who was Creon's son and kind of Antigone's fiance. As I told you in characters discussion, right, that Haman was like head over heel for Antigone. And Creon asked for his opinion, thinking his son will side with him. At first, Haman seems to be on his dad's side, but then he slowly starts speaking up against Creon's stubbornness and petty revenge. Go Haman. Well, what happens? Creon doesn't handle criticism like Oedipus or whatever the great hero at that time. Anyway, so he curses Haman and threatens to kill Antigone right in front of him. So Haman is, storms out in anger, can't blame the guy. Creon has a change of heart and decides to spare Ismene, but he's still determined to punish Antigone. So he was like, I'm gonna kill Antigone, whatever the thing happens. I'm going to do that. I'm going to execute this, little girl here who is adamant. Anyway, so he orders her to be walled up alive in tomb. Wow, that kind of like terrifying fate for the poor girl. So, but wait, here comes Tiresias. Now again, the blind prophet. So this guy is everywhere. So you're gonna find him in most of the Greek theaters. Anyway, he warns Creon about the god's wrath and advises him to bury Polynesius. At first, Creon refuses, but Tiresias' words scare the living daylight out everyone, and including Creon. So finally, Creon decides to free Antigone from the tomb, but guess what? It's too late. A messenger arrives, and again, what spills the beans? And Creon and his crew buried Polynesius. But when they heard cries for Antigone's tomb, they rushed and found her hanging from a noose. And Haman, poor guy, went crazy and stabbed himself. Heartbreaking stuff. Everything has already happened. So, because the moment Creon changed his mind, everything already happened there. That messenger already buried Antigone, and they heard the cry Antigone in the tomb, and then Haman went after her and stabbed himself with the heartbreak. Anyway, but the sad news doesn't end there. There was one character, Creon's wife, Eurydice, that we already talked about. So here's about the death, and again stabs herself and cursing Creon before. So everybody is dying there. So talk about, now Creon, realizing the mess he has made, prays for his own death, and his guards lead him back into the palace. Wow, what kind of roller coaster was there in Greek theater? I think when you read, you're going to be a fan of that. But anyway, so this is all about a kind of tale of family feuds, their defiance, their pride, and the consequences of messing with the gods. So moral of the story, guys, don't mess with the divine will, and maybe listen to some sound advice once in a while. But anyway, again, now we are at Oedipus at Columbus. That story is continuing, right? So in this story, what happened? So till now we had some quite the tale so far. So now, after years of being on the run from Thebes, that poor old man Oedipus finally lands himself in a grove near Athens. Now he's blind as a bat and needs his daughter Antigone to guide him around. So actually, little did they know that they stumbled upon some sacred ground reserved for the Eumenides, the fate goddess. Well, Oedipus sends some dude to fetch Theseus, the king of Athens, because he's got something important to ask. Now, the backstory is like back in the day, Apollo himself gave Oedipus a prophecy of doom, but he also promised him a resting place right where they were standing. So you can imagine the urgency of Oedipus feels to make all these things right. Anyway, this surgeon comes back with Theseus, who's all sympathetic and willing to lend a hand. So Oedipus asks him to let him stay in Athens until he kicks the bucket, but warns him that Thebes won't be too happy about it, right? And brave Theseus doesn't give a darn and agree to help Oedipus out. So this is all actually before Antigone also. So Antigone kind of at the end. So this Oedipus is like after Oedipus the Rex, there is Oedipus at Colonus. So just when you think, things can't get more complicated, Polynices, the Oedipus son that we know, shows up. He wants his father's support so he can take control of the burial spots everyone fusing about. So Oedipus, being the stubborn guy again, he asks Theseus to kick Polynices to the curb. But guess what? Antigone steps and convinces her dad to hear Polynices out. And Polynices spills the beans again about his evil bro Eteocles and how he's bribed everyone in Thebes. So Oedipus goes and again goes mad, cursing both his sons and predicting their tragic deaths. Polynices, realizing he's got no chance, turns to his brother and asks him to give him a proper burial if he dies in battle. So Antigone was like, agreed, okay, if something happens like that, I'll do that. Then what happens? Creon doesn't let her do the proper burial, right? Then this all happened in Antigone. Actually, we should have discussed this before Antigone, so you would have the proper. But anyway, now you get the idea, right? So the chorus freaks out. Oedipus again knows his time is up. He calls for Theseus, and again, what happened to needs to be done with his body to protect Athens. And Theseus is all ears, again asking Oedipus what he should do. Oedipus again spills the beans on the exact spot where he'll kick the bucket and swears Theseus to secrecy. So this thing, the secret is gonna be passed down through generation, ensuring that Athens is always safe. So Oedipus gains a sudden trust of energy and leads his daughter and Theseus to his grave. So that is all, right? So that's not completely end. We have something a little bit more. So again, one messenger comes and he spills the beans on the mysterious death of Oedipus. So it's like he vanished into the thin air, swallowed up in the by the earth itself. So just as the messenger finishes, Antigone and Ismene steps on the stage, wailing their hearts out. Antigone was to warn her dad for the rest of her days. So they're like, lost and don't know where to go now, saying that they'll wander alone forever. So that guy Theseus returns, trying to calm them down, but they beg to see their father's tomb. So Theseus is like, nah, sorry, but Oedipus said no. It's like, so they give up on that idea, but ask for a safe trip back to the Thebes to prevent a war between their brothers. So this is all about Oedipus, and you don't have to, like remember everything about it, but you should have now got the idea that it starts with Oedipus Rex, then Oedipus at Colonus, the third plot for Antigone is happening, and then we have the Antigone at the end. So this is all the order. Now we'll just move on to Electra. That is our last plot here in Sophocles' play. So it's not quite big, it's quite simple plot here. So as we know, all the Greek tragedy are so intense, right? So there is one man named Orestes, and he shows up with his buddy Pylades, and their trusty old tutor. So they have got a sneaky plan to trick everyone into thinking that Orestes is dead, and the tutor is gonna spread the word that Orestes bit the dust in crazy chariot race. So it's like he's going to spread the news. So what happened? Orestes and Pylades are actually alive and kicking. So anyway, We've also got one character, Electra, who's Orestes' sister. She's been mourning their dad Agamemnon's death and blaming their mom Clytemnestra for it. And when she hears the news of Orestes' death, she's devastated, double the grief, poor girl. So she was quite close to her father, right? So she was actually mourning the death of Orestes. But then again, suddenly, Orestes schemes holding an urn that's supposedly filled with his ashes. So he doesn't recognize Electra and she doesn't recognize him either. Orestes hands her the urn and she starts pouring out her heart in heartfelt lament. So thinking it's her brother's remain. Little does she know that Orestes is right there next to her, alive and well. It's total, I don't know what is happening there. But anyway, the moment when he reveals his true identity, Electra is like electric to see her brother alive. But they have to be careful not to, again, what? To reveal this thing. So here's when it gets really intense. Orestes spills the bean again to Electra and just as they're about to go all out, the tutor shows up like, come on guys, let's get this show on the road. Orestes and Pylades go inside the house and take out Clytemnestra, their mom, like. So they keep her body hidden under a sheet, and when Aegisthus, another character who was actually Clytemnestra's lover, comes back home, they pull a sneaky move. They show him the covered corpse, making him think it's Orestes' dead body. But when he unveils his surprise, Orestes reveals himself, and it's like. So they drag Aegisthus offshore to the hearth, the same spot where Agamemnon was killed. The play ends here, right before they announce Aegisthus' demises. So this is all about Sophocles. Only in our, you have to remember only two plays, which is like Antigone, like quite straightforward story, right? And then one Oedipus Rex that everyone would be aware of. So anyway, now we'll just talk about. This is all about the plays. Now we already talked about Sophocles, context, and also we talked about the plot overview, and also we talked about characters. Now here we are going to talk about the critical overview of all these plays. So as we know, there is one Oedipus complex by Freud and Electra by Calling, that we'll also discuss. But anyway, so this is all about like kind of analysis, the critical reviews. So I'll just begin and then you'll understand what is happening. So as we know, there's one trilogy that included a play called Oedipus Rex, which has Antigone and Oedipus at Colonus, right? So these plays explore some deep themes about the contradictory nature of humans and their desire for freedom and power and the nagging awareness of fate or the God's will. The recurring motive of clear vision symbolize what our understanding of the human condition, but often it's quite limited, right? So these plays teach us what that humanity should guide our understanding, attitude, and even how the state behaves, because anyone can make mistakes and disaster which can strike us all, right? So we humans are just pawns before the almighty will of God. So if you start with Oedipus the Rex, what happens, like it dwells into the like tragic irony of what the seeking the truth and trying to control fate. So the story kicks off with Thebes, suffering with plague, right, as we have already discussed, and the citizens turn to their king Oedipus, whose name hints at his identity. Creon, Oedipus' brother-in-law, comes back with oracle, and the plague will only end when the previous king's murderer will be found out and put to that. So anyway, Lais was killed at Crossroad, as we know, which serves as a symbol for Oedipus starting to fulfill the very prophecy he tried to escape. So as we know, the plot unfolds. The proud Oedipus becomes determined to solve the mystery of Lais' murder. He questions the blind prophet Tiresias, who reluctantly reveals that Oedipus himself is the killer, but physically blind can see the truth, while Oedipus with his sight remains blind. So this is all. Anyway, it is about that. Now we'll just discuss about Oedipus complex here. Oedipus complex, as we know, it's a psychological term in psychology, which is by Sigmund Freud. you see. And this Freud had a lot to say about his uh, so he this term, so he wrote this cool thing in his book called Interpretation of Dreams about Oedipus, and this concept called the Oedipus complex. So it's basically like, like son is attracted to the mother, and Freud thinks it's because Oedipus' fate could totally be ours too. So you see, this oracle put the same curse on us as did on Oedipus even before we were born. So, and get this, Freud believes that deep down all of us have this weird thing where we want to get it on with our mothers and secretly hate our dads. So yeah, a dream supposedly back this up. So crazy, right? But that's what makes Oedipus Rex so damn effective even for modern audience. It taps into these universal messed up feelings that we all have deep down inside. Again, we have one Electra complex, which is actually coined by Carl Jung in his theory of psychoanalysis. So basically, it's all about a girl having this kind of competition with her mother and for her father's attention. It's like she's, uh, attracted to her dad's love and affection, and this whole thing happens during the third stage of psychosexual development, so called the phallic stage, so which is between the age 3 and 6. So, and just boys are a part of bigger framework that describes how our desires, pleasures change as we grow. So the Electra complex is all about the girl's focus on that special connection with her dad. So anyway, the themes and analysis. Now it's time to discuss the themes and some analysis about it. So you see the power of unwritten law, which is like the oracle, the prophecies, which actually form the plot. So anyway, so this power of unwritten law is like, you see, it's about as when Creon takes charge of Thebes, right, after Oedipus. So, and also let's leave Polynices, our enemy, to rot and be eaten by animal. He believes it's justified because Polynices was a traitor, according to Creon, right? That, and the security of the state is super important. So, but guess what? What happens? The play proves him wrong again. Some duties are more important than the state's law. One of those duties is burying the dead. It's basic human thing, not just a citizen thing. That's why it's a big deal when Polynices' body is left to decay. It's not just a crime; it's a total disgrace. Antigone didn't agree with that, and she, fought for it. She appeals to this unwritten law, this moral duty, and which is all about respecting the dead, right? And the willingness to ignore the truth. Actually, sometimes we should ignore the truth, or I mean, when it is, but it was not. If in the case of Oedipus, so like Oedipus and Jocasta are getting closer to figuring out the truth about the murder of Lies, right? But instead of facing it head on, Oedipus clinges to a little detail that might prove him innocent. Jocasta mentioned that Lies was killed by a stranger, but Oedipus knows that he killed a guy all by himself in a similar situation. It's a crazy moment because it makes you question the whole truth-seeking process. So Oedipus and Jocasta act like the servant's story is absolute truth. So they can't even entertain the idea that the servant might be wrong. So they avoid facing the obvious truth by ignoring the coincidences and connection in their own eyes. Just like they pretend not to see what's right in front of them. So this is our theme of the willingness to ignore truth. And then we have free will. So free will is like, we have got this theme, that free will, which is like prophecies play, like we see, in prophecies, in Greek plays, prophecies really play a huge role. And especially in Oedipus Rex. It all, starts with Creon coming back from Oracle and learning that the plague will end if they exile the person who killed Laius. So Tiresias, the blind prophet, predict that the killer is actually both a father and a brother to his children. And then we have Oedipus and Jocasta talking about their own prophecies. Oedipus heard he'd kill his dad and sleep with his mom, and Jocasta was like told her, son would grow up and kill his dad. They debate how much trust we should put in prophecies. But guess what? All those prophecies come true. Which makes you think Sophocles wanted to prove that the gods and prophets have real power. especially back in Athens during that time. So people were questioning them a lot. Again, another theme you see, blindness. It can also be a motive also. So like Oedipus himself is an interesting case. So it's hard to blame him for being blind or foolish when it seems like he had no choice in fulfilling the prophecy. So he was like sent away from Thebes as a baby, as we see in the beginning of the play, then saved and raised and as a prince in Corinth, totally by chance. When he learns about the prophecy, he runs away from the Corinth, and you won't believe it, ends up back in Thebes, becoming king and marrying his own mother without even knowing it. So Oedipus just wants to escape his fate, but fate keeps catching up with him. Some people argue that he brings his own downfall because of a tragic flaw. But honestly, nobody can agree on what that flaw is. So maybe the point of his story could be like is that anyone can make mistakes and face disaster. So we human are like pretty powerless against fate and the gods. So maybe we should approach life with a little bit more humility, humility and cautious. So one more thing, did you notice something interesting about the character in these three Theban plays? It's kind of dark, right? But bear with me. In these plays, almost everyone who bites the dust really goes, so on their own terms. So they choose to end their own lives. In Oedipus' cases, he willingly meets his mysterious demises. It's pretty intense stuff, right? So anyway, again, another one is suicide. You can also make it as symbol. So suicide happens everywhere. It is starting with like Jocasta's, right? Oedipus' wife or mother, you can say. Very complicated. So what happens? Hangs herself in the play. Then we have Antigone, who hangs herself again. And he gets Antigone, and it doesn't stop there. Eurydice and Haman, they both decide to stab themselves, and in the you see at the end of the Antigone, end of the play. So they were really committed to their tragic excess. So Oedipus himself doesn't shy away from self-inflicted violence either. In his like in the first play, you see what happens. He goes through some serious messed up stuff and inflict pain on himself. And in the second way, he willingly heads toward his own mysterious death. Talk about determination, right? So anyway, but it's not all suicide, if you can say. Polynices and Eteocles, they die in battle with each other. Although you could argue that Polynices' death was kind of self-inflicted, because he knew about his father's curse and he was fighting a losing battle. It's like he knew it was coming. Another theme, or even you can put this as a symbol, like incest. So there is this underlying theme here, and that's what motivates or indirectly causes all of these death in the play. So that plays an important, strong reason to end themselves. So incest is a kind of important symbol in the play. Themes in the play. Again, we have one symbol. You see Oedipus swollen foot, which is actually this Oedipus means is swollen foot itself. So this dude gets his name because when he was a baby, his father Laius left him on a mountain with his ankle tied together. So this injury leaves Oedipus with a gnarly scar that symbolizes how fate was basically branded him. So it's like a constant reminder that he's different and marked by some master prophecy. Again, three-way crossroad that you see there. What happened? Jocasta mentioned that Laius was killed there, right, at the spot where three roads meet. The crossroad things comes up a lot in the play and represent a super important moment way before the story takes place. So it's a place where choices are made and decisions have serious consequences. So Oedipus unknowingly made a fateful choice at this crossroads, setting the motion, like murdering his dad and marrying his mom. So talk about a bad decision. Like, so this is all happened, and again we have Antigone's entombment, and like in the play, right, that she asked about the proper burial of his brother, her brother. So Creon, the ruler, decide to punish Antigone by locking her up in a tomb. She left with just enough food so that nobody can be directly blamed for her death. So this whole tomb thing is a symbol of Antigone's loyalty to the dead like her brother and father, rather than the living, like her lover Hymen or her sister Ismene. So, but it's also a sign of Creon's stupidity, you can say, and disrespect for the gods. Tiresias, the blind prophet, again points out that locking a living person in a grave is a huge sin, like keeping a rotting body out in broad daylight. So Creon's action show that he's trying to mess with nature, thinking he can control things that are away. Again, another symbol, you can say, riddle of this thing. So what is the creature that walks on 4 legs in the morning, and 2 legs at noon and 3 legs in the evening? So that was also one of the important symbol. So that we have already talked about everything, right? Starting with themes, and I'll say symbol and character. We have some code also that I will post in your class. So that's all. Thank you so much. It was quite long class, I guess, right? But anyway, we had some fun. We all covered all Sophocles plays and all characters, and of course about him, the context of the plays, critical overview, themes, analysis, and symbols. So that's all for today. Tomorrow when we come back, we'll talk about the rest of the plays, like some satires are there, right? Some new comedy. So in next class, and also some plays of Euripides and Aeschylus that we'll also discuss. So thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe this channel. Bye bye. Have a good day.